Hello and welcome to Homespun Childhood. My name is Sarah. I am a former teacher turned homeschool mom of 3. I taught for a number of years, including kindergarten, first grade, and third grade. And my background is in early childhood and elementary education with a focus in literacy development, which is what brings me here today to share with you an epic, not showdown, that would not be very kind, an epic comparison of the major homeschool foundational reading skill curricula available for you to purchase. The programs that I'm going to go through today are All About Reading, Level 1, Logic of English Foundations, Level A, Rooted in Languages Pinwheels, Year 1, which includes Level 1 and Level 2, and Foundations, Basic Foundational Reading by Pathways to Reading. I have purchased All About Reading, Pinwheels, and Foundations, Logic of English. Basic Foundational Reading by Pathways to Reading was sent to me for my review and for me to look through, and so that you have it. So we're going to jump into this, how this is going to work. I will go through each curriculum one by one and do a flip through of all the different materials that come with the curriculum and kind of share my thoughts on it and which scenarios might make it a good curriculum for your child. I will say that all of these programs are rooted in the science of reading, about how the brain learns how to read, and best practices in reading, including that reading instruction for all children should be systematic, sequential, and explicit. So we should be following a scope and sequence. We should be going in that particular order. We should be explicitly telling our children the letters and the sounds that they make and how those rules work together. And yeah, you will see some different teaching styles out there and other curriculum that don't necessarily abide by this idea that like we should be explicitly teaching reading skills to children, but the research on this is firm and solid, and that children, even children who are in the 5% of kids that learn to read naturally, benefit from this type of explicit instruction. If you want more on that, head over to Instagram, where I have several highlights labeled reading 1, 2, and 3, I think. And then on my website, homespunchildhood.com, I have a research section on reading where you can learn all the research and peruse that at your leisure. So let's jump into this, starting with All About Reading, and then we will do Foundations, and then Pinwheels, and then Pathways, and I will try to make little chapters down below if I figure that out. Here we go. And we're going to start with All About Reading, which I think is probably one of the most well-known reading curricula in the homeschool world. So, All About Reading, Level 1 is about your kindergarten year. This is what I would recommend for students who are, 5 to 6, for beginning reading instruction. All About Reading does have a pre-reading program that has some rhyming, phonemic awareness, and alphabet skills if you are interested in that. So I'll go through the materials that are the main materials and then some extras like the game book over here. All right, so we have our softbound guide. We have our softbound student activity book that you end up ripping most of those pages out of. We have our readers here. We have 3 volumes, hardback and color pictures. Sorry, my lighting is confused. And the All About Reading reading review box that has inside our phoneme cards and our word cards. One of the extra materials that you can purchase is reading games with Ziggy the zebra. These you cut and paste onto file folders, which obviously I have yet to do because I didn't realize that was what it was, and that's time consuming. So I'll show you that though. All right, so let's dive in. I'm trying to find space to put all these things. Okay. First off, let's look at our scope and sequence. We know from the science of reading and the research that children need systematic, explicit reading instruction. Even if your child is one of those children who falls into the 5% that learn to read pretty naturally on their own, they still benefit from systematic, explicit instruction because they might not have the spelling part down, right? That might be a little bit trickier, and so learning those phonograms and their rules can help with that. Also, it ensures that you don't have any gaps. So I'm going to zoom in for a second and we can really look at this. So the first section of our book is all about preparing for level 1. We'll go through that. Then we have our step-by-step lesson plans. The lessons, they make a note in here to tell you that the lessons are not intended to be one lesson per day. Some of these lessons are going to take longer than others, depending on your child. And so you kind of have to break that up on your own. They begin with these different sound groups here. So we start with MSP, and each of those sounds are pretty easy sounds for the child to produce and to identify, and they're consistent sounds, although S does have two sounds. And then we have a vowel, A. Short vowel is introduced, and that way you can start blending words right off of your first lesson. Real words and nonsense words, right? And then again, we continue adding in consonants here. You'll notice we don't have more vowels until we get down to lesson 8. So several weeks in, maybe several months in, even at this point. So you're really slowly starting to have blending opportunities, and they do teach some sight words in there. And then the scope and sequence goes all the way down through all of our consonants and the short vowels, and we begin to introduce digraphs, the TH, SH, CH, and we have the floss rule with double F, L, and S. Moving to the back half of this, we have 53 lessons total. Towards the end, you're doing more consolidation of skills. There are more readers involved, thinking about consonant teams like NG and K. Additional sounds for O and G, so starting to learn some long vowel sounds and some of the soft sounds all the way through to the end. And we have an appendix with a lot of materials, so let's dive in. They have a digital video walkthrough if that is more your style. I guess I'll leave that zoomed in. A list of materials, your student packet, that's what your phonogram and word cards are. You can purchase different levels of this kit. You will want some kind of movable alphabet. I am looking around right now to find the All About Reading one, and I'll snag it when we get there, maybe. Where is it? Y'all, my desk is a mess. All right, hold on. All right, found ours. So they come on this big sheet of cardstock, and you punch them out, and you can put a magnet on them if you order the magnet kit, and then use them on the magnet board. We are not using these as of yet because we're using something else, but we will use these for spelling. It is important, regardless of which curricula you use for reading instruction, that you have some kind of movable alphabet, whether that's magnets or, cardstock like this, or, wood, or whatever it is. Again, they continue through the materials you need, what you should know about the program. They address the 5 components of literacy from the National Reading Panel. Is your student ready for this program? Previewing the teacher manual, about the different components of the manual, which I like. One thing that they do have that not all the programs have is a progress chart for children to mark their progress as they go through the different lessons. We have some time talking about reading aloud and explaining the activity and warm-up sheets. I like that they explain those for you. And more practice sheets. And then previewing the readers. Preparing your reading review box. Again, this is all set up, and they walk through all of this in their video. How much time should I spend on reading? I really like that they have this breakdown on here. Some children are going to need more than this. Please keep that in mind, that not all children are going to need 20 minutes. Lessons take more than one day to complete, and we should be reading aloud as well. Then we jump right into our step-by-step lessons. One thing I really like about the All About Reading program is their lessons are very clear, clean, and easy to use. They are visually appealing, and as a visual person, I really appreciate the ease on the eyes and my ability to quickly find what I am looking for in here. So lesson 1, we're introducing 4 letters. I'm going to zoom out again and have some coffee. Okay. So this yellow box is calling your attention that this is for you, the teacher, explaining to you, the teacher, how to say the sounds, especially things like p for P instead of p, adding that schwa sound at the end. We really don't want to do that. So I like that they call that out, because that might not be something that a lot of parents know. Addressing the hand motions, talking about vowels and consonants, teaching you the blending procedures, teaching new sounds. So now we're in this new teaching tab right here. And this is the I do portion. All About Reading does a great job with the I do, you do, I do, we do, you do scaffolding for teaching, which I like. They have blending with sounds right off the bat. We're using the manipulatives multisensory approach, pushing the sounds and blending them together. I should have turned the volume down on my computer because it is talking to me. All right. They have word chaining right from the beginning. Change the word. Teaching vowels and consonants. We've got this don't reminder part. We have a complete the activity sheet. It tells you, get this page, do the things, practice our reading words, and then mark your progress. I really like that they have these different sections are clear and they hit a variety of types of learning. I do think that not all children will be able to move through a reading program as quickly as this. It's a pretty fast pace to be learning, maybe 4 letters in a week. Let me see how many lessons there are. All right, so there are 53 lessons. So, they do make a point to say that this might take more than 1 week to do that. Definitely more than 1 day. And that said, you have to kind of parse that out yourself. They do not have a, do this on this day breakdown. And if you have a child that needs to spread out multiple letters, 1 letter a week, maybe even, there is not enough material in this book to really be able to do that and have your child be exposed to new things and review things. You will have to pull in additional resources. All right, let's flip to a end of the book lesson. Towards the end of the book, we have learned all the vowels and most of the consonants, and they are beginning to add on more consolidation of skills and learning things like plural words. So All About Reading does begin to include a little bit of word study. However, it's not taught as word study. It's taught as kind of like grammar. So previewing endings S and ES, talking about the different sounds S makes, suffix S makes. We don't, that said, we don't have a lot of teaching of like this is a base word and this is a suffix. It's more like this is how we do it. And then you build the words. There is a game sheet to play. Reading words, your practice page. I really like that they include these fluency pages, and then some ideas for read aloud time. I do wish that their moving letters component, when you're building your words, had more of the orthographic or phonemic mapping component to it, where we're thinking about how many sounds do I hear first, and then we're pushing the letter to the sound. So for example, the word cups, we would have 4 lines for the 4 sounds, k, p, s, and then we would mark 1 sound per box. This program does not have that element to it. And we know that orthographic mapping or phoneme mapping, phoneme, grapheme mapping, y'all, they're both mouthfuls, are really important for consolidating these reading skills and really moving it into our long-term memory. Towards the end, we have mostly the reading parts and little activity sheets that go with it. And then we have a nice appendix here. Always check your books for appendices, y'all. Okay, so we have our scope and sequence again. We have our phonograms taught. I like that they have that here and they have them in order. And then it tells you what's coming up in the next levels. I also like that. We have blending procedure, reversals. This is really nice that they have this feature in here on reversals and strategies for teaching it, making word flippers, using the practice sheets, different games you can do, some game things in the back here. Okay, so that is the teacher guide for All About Reading 1. Let's look at their student activity book and have some more coffee. Okay, this is their student activity book. It is really an activity book and not a workbook. I'm sorry, that's having a hard time focusing, and it's glossy. So at the beginning, we have our progress chart and our reading chart. All of these pages are perforated and you will end up pulling all of them out. I had already started pulling these out, and then I realized I should hold off until I show you them because I will lose them. So they are labeled up here for their lesson. Lesson 1 word match, lesson 2 word match, and as we get more sounds under our belt, they begin to have these fluency sheets, which is really nice that they have these fluency sheets. I really like that. And you will notice that these are not pencil and paper worksheet type activities. These are all either games or fluency sheets, the whole lot of it. And they have comprehension pages as we get more into the stories in the back. I like that we have some charts in here. So if you have a kid who really likes cut and paste type things, this will be great. Also, I really like the fluency sheets that are in here. With All About Reading, you also have these nice hardback anthologies of readers. I'm going to open it so that we get the gloss off the screen there. They, start out simple. They are decodable. They tell you when to use these readers. Okay, I like their illustrations. These are nice. Again, you can also buy these separate. So if you end up not using All About Reading, but you want more decodable readers, you can purchase these secondhand, first-hand, that's not the word, new, or secondhand. And I see them often in the All About Reading BST group on Facebook and on eBay. So this is a nice collection, and they will hold up well. With All About Reading, we also have this reading review box. You do not have to buy their box. Their box is intended to go through all of the years of All About Reading, and so you have these little foam things that you take out when you have more cards, and right now they just help keep your cards upright. And so they come with the phonogram cards, and I like this for review that we have these cards kind of ready to go. They also have word cards that go along with their lessons. Again, I like this for practice and review. I like that they have tabs for the sections already in here. It's really nice. I like this. This is, my kind of thing. That said, not all students will like that. Not all students will need that either. And this is a total optional that I have purchased and not used, but I will show you anyways. Reading Games with Ziggy the Zebra. There is a Ziggy puppet, if your kids are into that. I did not think my kids would be into the puppet, and I was wrong. They love Ziggy the Zebra. So we have different lessons in here they line up with for level 1, which is really nice. Okay, so the way these work is you take these off and you paste them onto file folders, and then you have these different little pieces that you use for some of the games. Okay, so I'll probably be doing this. I haven't done this yet because I didn't realize it was I don't think I paid attention to what I was buying. I didn't realize I had to do a lot of prep work, but I think my daughter will really like this, so we will do that. And that is a wrap on All About Reading. I apologize for my pace. I am going lickety-split here, so this isn't like 4 hours long. All right, next up, another popular program in the homeschool world and outside the homeschool world as well. Both of these you'll see mentioned in the Science of Reading groups. Logic of English Foundations program. This is their foundational skills program. There are 4 levels. Level A is intended for 5 to 6-ish, depending on your child. So the components of this curriculum include your hardback teacher's guide, your student workbook in either cursive or print, your phonogram cards, your game cards. You can have this book optional or not. Doodling Dragons. This is a nice picture book that introduces each of the sounds. They also have a phonogram spelling rule quick reference chart, a spelling analysis chart, and they do have little tile movable alphabet pieces similar to All About Reading. However, they are a little bit sturdier. They're more on like a cardboard or a heavier cardstock. We do not use those. I think I even threw those away. But if you don't have a movable alphabet and you're using this program, that's great. They also have a lot of online resources that I have not used. I think you can actually purchase PDF stuff of this now and not just the hardback copy. They have an all online program. They also have a supplementary online thing where you can watch the videos for some of the instructional features. So if you're looking for more support, it's nice that they have that. We will start with our teacher guide. Okay, so we jump right in here. We talk about supplies and your ages. How long does a lesson take? Again, they don't really tell you how long a lesson takes. Your assessment is built into this program. I like that they have assessment. Talk about cursive or manuscript, speech tips, spelling analysis, which is unique to foundations. They're doodling, dragons, ABC songs. There are MP3s or a CD you can get for those, and then a little bit of terminology. Then we jump into their scope and sequence, which honestly is a little bit difficult to read because it includes all of their different components going across this way and your lesson numbers coming down here. And so if you want to see their order of teaching the phonograms, you kind of have to hunt for them a little bit. So Logic of English does go through phonemic awareness, systematic phonics, handwriting, spelling, comprehension, and fluency, and that is comprehending the material that the student reads, not like literature comprehension. And then vocabulary and composition. Not really any vocabulary and composition in level 1, you will notice. Okay. Their letter sequence and approach to teaching letters is different from All About Reading. We begin with lowercase a. So we have a consonant, we have a vowel, and then several consonants, D, G, and C. G and C are interesting choices because those are letters that have multiple sounds. G has the G and the J, and C has the K and the S. And C also goes with K in terms of sounds. So that might be confusing for some children. Other children might be totally fine with that. They also teach you all of the sounds initially. So letter A, read all the sounds in order of frequency. So for letter A, all of the sounds in order of frequency would be A, A, And so your child is learning all the sounds the vowel makes, or all the sounds G and C can make at once instead of parsing them out. Some kids benefit from that. That's just how their brain works. And so knowing, okay, A can make all these different sounds, but right now I'm going to focus on this A sound can be helpful for them. Other kids would be completely overwhelmed. So it really depends on your child and how their brain works. My oldest, we jumped into foundations after doing some other stuff, and he really loved that he was like, okay, tell me what it is and I will do it. And that worked really well for him. My daughter would be very overwhelmed with that. So it really depends on your child. I will say, if you have a child that is struggling and they're coming from another curriculum, maybe they're coming from the Good and the Beautiful, perhaps, hint, hint, don't use that one, and you need remediation, this might be a really great choice because they teach you all of those together from the beginning, and so you can move through it at a faster pace. They have assessments built in about every 5 every 5 lessons, and we will look through those. Okay, so here are the phonograms and their sounds that they make and your keywords. We have this nice materials needed for each lesson, the needed and the optional. We have Common Core standards. Now, this is not a Common Core foundational reading skills program. This is a program that they can then plug in and tell you, okay, well, this lesson matches this standard. So if you need to be able to say what standards you're using, it's here. But that doesn't mean that this is created based off of the standards. And then we have our lessons. We will do a couple lessons in the front and a couple in the back. Again, this teacher guide is for the whole year. So in the beginning, we do not start off with all of the different components of literacy. They start with phonemic awareness and handwriting for the most part. They have this nice, skill box at the top of each lesson. Then they have your different components broken down into your script. So you are reading the print and the child is answering the italicized component. We have our materials. We have teacher tips and multisensory fun. It does draw attention to how the mouth moves to make the sounds. Not overkill, just, can you feel air coming out? Plug your nose and say it, all those things. We have beginning to blend compound words for phonemic awareness, teaching handwriting. All About Reading does not teach handwriting with their reading, and Foundations does. Some more games, lots of teacher tips throughout here, and then we move on to lesson 2. Initially, our first few lessons do not have any phonics yet. We just have the phonemic awareness. So let's move. One of the things that I like about Logic of English is that if you have an active learner, someone who likes to get up and move around a lot, they do have a lot of get up and move around type games, which is really nice. We have our systematic phonics here with different options for teaching it. So a lot of different learning strategies. We have like doing a C day, singing, a challenge. They have the page in their book. We're learning how our mouth forms the sound. Then we're learning how to write it. They have different activities in the student activity book, and those are clearly indicated. We have phonogram hopscotch in here. We have a phonogram relay race if you're with more than one kid. Let's do lesson 10. So we're going to learn blending CVC words orally with phonemic awareness. We're going to do letter O and all of the sounds that it makes, handwriting O, and then our materials. So here's our phonemic awareness activity, blending, blending, blending. Now we're segmenting. Then we're going to teach our phonogram O. Here's where they show you an example of teaching all the sounds that O makes. You would say, this says ah, O, oo. How many sounds does it say? 3. Let's read all the sounds. Looking at the picture book, doodling dragons, finding all those words in a sentence. Stop, hop, go, home, move. There's our oo sound, okay? I wish they had more explicit instruction for the teacher about what those sounds say embedded in the lesson, because they don't have that here. So if you needed keywords or you forgot what those 2 little dots are on top of the O, you'd have to go and find it somewhere else. We have a couple of games here, and then we have our handwriting, and then doing a little activity in your book, and then that's it. So we don't really have any building of words in this part yet. Then we move on to the assessment. Again, about every 5 lessons they have this assessment. I like that they have this assessment. It's partially, oral and also in your workbook, and they have some ideas for practice if your child is struggling with any of those parts. Let's kind of come towards the middle maybe. All right, lesson 23. We are teaching phonemic awareness, phonics, handwriting, spelling, spelling analysis, comprehension and fluency. Okay, so we have our phonemic awareness broken down first. Oops, sorry. Our handwriting pages. Our systematic phonics, we have a game called Slap It built in for the phonics. And then they have their spelling analysis. Their spelling analysis is a unique component for Logic of English. They have a very specific way for teaching spelling analysis where you're labeling the different sounds. With Logic of English, you were teaching the letter C, for example, and all of the sounds it makes. So for example, C says k and C says s based off of certain rules. They're also teaching all the sounds for the vowels from the beginning. So A would be a, and so you're learning all those different sounds, and then when you're doing your spelling analysis, you're identifying, is it the first sound, the second sound, or the third sound. This spelling analysis approach kind of takes place of a phoneme or orthographic mapping activity, and some students can really dive into this and enjoy it. My oldest, we use Logic of English with him, and he is a very logical thinker. He likes rules, he likes concrete things, and so he liked this. My daughter, this would just confuse her. That her brain just works in a different way, and so having all of the sounds taught at the same time when you introduce a letter, it would be too much for her. And so it really is going to depend on your children as to whether or not this is going to be a good fit for them. You could also substitute spelling analysis here and use phoneme grapheme mapping for these words instead of using their system. If you want to know more about phoneme grapheme mapping or orthographic mapping, I have several videos on Instagram about that. And then we have our spelling, and again, they are spelling the words or building them with their tiles. The comprehension and fluency components in Logic of English are based off of words the student can read. So can you read fluently and comprehend your own reading? Okay, and the end of the book, and we have our assessment. We just kind of finish the book. And then we have an index. All right, let's look at their student workbook. Trying to find some space in here. Okay, so their student workbook is kind of a combination workbook and activity book. Some of it you will be just doing right in the book, listening for the sound of each word and circling it. It's kind of a combination. This is not something they can do independent. This is like you're reading stuff and then they're responding to it in the book. Some of it is games. You have a little tic-tac-toe game board here. Matching phonograms. We also have the assessments are built into here. So again, this is like the teacher is reading, you, the parent, are reading, and then they're responding to that. And at the end, you have your readers that you end up making with your child. So you pull these out and they have, very simple decodable readers with the pictures that you are matching with your child as part of the lessons. Logic of English does not have any fluency sheets, fluency word sheets, any sentence sheets like All About Reading has. They do have these little high frequency word cards that you could laminate and use as review cards, although they're kind of small for that purpose. You do end up using them for a lot of their games. They do not have a lot of opportunities for like writing practice, not writing as in writing, but more like encoding and the child having to produce the sounds pencil and paper. We do have that through the spelling analysis a little bit. Okay, and they do have a lot of games that use their different cards here, and they also have this game book, which I wish I had bought earlier. If you don't end up using Logic of English, but you want some of their games, because I do have a lot of games, this book is fantastic, and I wish I had bought it earlier. So I just wanted to show it to you really quick. They have their games broken up into the different skills. So we have phonemic awareness, active phonogram games, phonogram card games, board games, tiled games, creative games, active reading games, reading card games. Like based on the child and the type of play that they like and the skill they need, you can just flip and find it. And then you use the phonograms that you are currently learning and working with. So this is applicable across different curricula. They do have some game boards you can get to go with it. They have this tile games. You can use this with any movable alphabet. So I think this is really awesome, and I highly recommend this. As you can tell, I have already marked it up a lot. And that is it for Logic of English. Next up, we have Pinwheels. All right. We are at Pinwheels. If you have noticed, I have piled the things on my desk because holy guacamole, Pinwheels has a lot of components. This is what I'm currently using with my daughter. If you want a full look inside Pinwheels, then I have a video that I will link for that. Otherwise, I'm gonna show you what these are and then clear this off. So Pinwheels is broken up into 2 levels for year 1. We have year 1, Pinwheels level 1, and Pinwheels level 2. So these are, approximately would make a full year. It really depends on the pacing that you do. So these are the teacher guides. Then you also have 2 workbooks, again, broken up into level 1 and level 2. You also have a variety of reading kits and appendices. So our reading kits are going to have all of our fluency sheets, our real words, all nonsense words, our fluency sentence strips, our additional bonus kind of copy work. They also have, I'm trying to think what else is in here. I've already pulled out a lot for level 1. Let's see. All your books are also in here. You do not get anything bound or printed. I'll talk more about that in a minute. With Pinwheels, so for the books, you can either slip them in a binder like this, or you can print them off and bind them, use a little stapler, and I throw washi tape on the spine. So your reading kit has your reading materials, and your appendices have your cardstock materials, so your caution words, their version of sight words, your phonogram tiles if you want to cut them out or laminate them and cut them out, and use those for your movable alphabet and some other things that are on cardstock. And what else do we have here? This is our flip book. There are directions for how to set this up, but basically this is your blending drill. This is straight out of Orton Gillingham, using this blending drill where we're moving words around and quickly blending them, moving phonograms around and quickly blending them. They talk about how to set this up and how to use this in both video and text. All right. Oh, last thing. Throughout the Pinwheels, all their levels, you work on making a language arts binder with your child. They have their own binder. I have my own binder. That's completely optional. And in the binder, you're working on making these pages for the different things that you're learning. And this is both a way of learning it, right? We know from research that we learn as we write things and as we produce things. And so this is with my daughter. We actually did this morning, and this is a combination of us working together. So we talked about it, and I was writing and she was underlining and boxing, and underlining and boxing here and drawing her cat and then her cats. We also have all these different components for where we keep different things that we learn and do as we go. So this is a really nice tool. Let's see what else is in here. We also have our vowel chart that we build on. My son has his vowel chart and it's like totally full, but this is for working on vowel practice. Just a lot of components. All right, I'm just gonna move that aside. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. All right, so we are going to start again with their educator teacher guide. I don't have enough space for this. Ay, ay, ay. All right. So again, we have year 1, level 1 and 2. Pinwheels goes up to level 4. Level 4 is doing a slow release starting this summer. If you already have Pinwheels 3, then you can participate in the slow release for Pinwheels 4. Otherwise, Pinwheels 4 will launch in the fall. So let's look at these. Actually, before we do that, I'm sorry. Let's talk a little bit about how this program is purchased. So Pinwheels is by Rooted in Language, and you purchase this online. It is a digital-only curriculum. That means you purchase it and you get a slew of PDF files. What you do with those PDF files is up to you. So I opted to have them sent out to their printing partners, and their printing partners printed them on all the right types of paper based off of what they think will work best, they being Rooted in Language, and bound my books that are bound and all of that. Moving forward, I think I will do that myself because I have a variety of paper and I have a spiral binder, and I don't end up using some of the things that are already printed for me. But that is an option. I will also say that adds a lot in terms of cost to the program to have it sent out for printing. I think it's like $100 or something, a curricula. Okay, so this is our plan and prep. So if you remembered at the beginning of All About Reading and Logic of English, we had kind of a breakdown of what the program is. And so this is kind of part of that for Pinwheels. So we have, our notes on Welcome to Pinwheels, talking about the video library, how to print Pinwheels, using the reading kit for extra practice, your materials list, including a clickable Amazon shop list, a glossary of terms. I really like that they have this. They are really strong in teaching you to be the teacher, not just telling you what to do, but teaching you and showing you how to do it, which I think is great. Okay, so all these different terms, it's great that they have those. Phonics terms here in the chart, and then we're back into our appendix there. All right, so let's look at the first level. Okay, so again, we are starting with our scope and sequence. Let's zoom in here. Okay, so Rooted in Language is also very different from the other curricula with how they do their scope and sequence. So they start with all of your short vowel sounds. You're learning all your short vowel sounds, and you are really working on those from the beginning. And then you continue to work on those and review as you add in more consonants. This was a new approach to me. In the past, I have typically used the more Orton Gillingham based scope and sequence, where you're learning a couple of vowels, a vowel every, couple of weeks, and some of the easier to produce consonants, and so that you can build words right away. However, I really like this because after having read Make It Stick, that talks a lot about how the brain learns things. And we need this interleaved practice. We need to have recall of things. We have to kind of come back to it again and again. When we are adding in these new consonants, we are continuously coming back to these short vowels. And obviously that is the case with some of the other programs as well, because you learn the vowel and then it's always kind of there, but there is built-in continuous review of those vowels throughout every lesson in here. Okay, so you learn your vowels and then you begin learning your lowercase and capital consonants together. So we have B, G, M, and we're using those to blend with the vowels that we've already learned. Continuing down through here, through about Unit 15. And Unit 15, we've kind of gotten to Z, but again, these aren't in alphabetical order, so this is like half of your program. Okay, so welcome to Pinwheels. They talk about all the different components that they teach. Pinwheels is unique in the homeschool literacy world in that it is a complete literacy program, meaning we have word study and grammar and handwriting and writing tied in. Okay, I guess it's not totally complete because you don't have literature in here, but okay. They have writing built into their program in a developmentally friendly way that is working side by side with the decoding. So you're learning encoding, the spelling aspect of kind of writing at the same time that you're learning how to read the sounds. And then they're teaching writing skills and literary skills throughout the program. They also talk about word study in a way that you are literally starting word study. For example, you're learning about base words and suffixes when you learn suffix s, and not just that we add s to make something plural. And so we have more opportunities as we go to build onto that because we've already begun talking about word study as base words and then the different affixes that we attach to it. They talk about the brain science kind of behind this, how the pinwheels turn, teaching principles, and then we have another scope and sequence, but this one's in chart form, explaining the schedule. So this is a breakdown of what their schedule looks like and how you can read it, talking about the review that's built into each of the units, what the units, kind of how you can adjust it for your day if you're going to split up things for the morning and the afternoon. The readers and intentional copy work. I love that they have intentional copy work in here. Your extra practice. Your multi-sensory games and practice that you learn throughout, and then you apply the same game with all the new sounds that you're learning. Okay. Before you begin each unit, daily supplies, extra practice, and here we go. Page 31, lesson, unit 1. Again, their units are not like a week. Some of their units are several days, and some of them are several weeks. It really depends on the unit, their pacing, right? So they provide you with this is what you do on each day pacing, which I really like that they break that down. You can also stray from that, right? You can go faster, you can go slower. So our day is up here, and our skills are down here. They have your review built in. You're saying and writing your name, multiple days, you're coloring your pinwheel, you're practicing the alphabet, multi-sensory activities, okay, working on our LA binder right from the beginning, telling a story, moving on. I'm gonna jump in just a little bit farther because this is the first lesson, so that one's. All right, here we go. Short vowels. We have our new literacy concepts down here. That's for you. We have the unit breakdown. This indicates that there is a video in their library to help you with that. Okay, why you teach. I really like that they have this why you teach in here. This is really nice for you as a parent to understand the background behind this in a very, easy to understand way. Say your sounds as you write. what you teach. So now this is what you're teaching. Learn to write and say the short vowel letters. And then there's a workbook page for the child to do. And then you're reviewing your short vowels, and then you're learning, and then you're practicing together, and then you're doing your workbook page. So again, this is following that I do, we do, you do model, which is great. Okay, lots of components going on here. And while these are not listed, you know, day 1, day 2, day 3, once you get into the lesson, again, those are told on the chart at the beginning. So if you're moving at a different pace, you can kind of just move through this faster, or you can move through it slower and build back in your daily review activities. One of their games, Vowel in the House here. And then at the end of each unit, you have this nice chart that is telling you what items need to go into the LA binder. I kind of use this as my checklist for the units to make sure I've kind of covered all of the different skills and rules that are being taught. And so it tells you what your binder pages, where it's going, and how they're doing it. They have extra practice at the end, a game, and a review. Let's look a little farther down. Here, we'll just jump to the lesson that we are doing here. All right. We are in Unit 11 now. This is where you're learning the base word and suffix s. The lesson before this was about learning, a couple lessons before this, 2 units, I guess, were about S and working with S and making words. And now we're going to talk about S as a suffix. And so you're straight up teaching suffixes and affixes and prefixes and all of that, which I think is great. So again, we have our review in here. We have teaching word parts. We have the spelling rules. We have our caution words and common words. So again, these are our sight words, our high frequency words, your multisensory activities, tell a story, your binder chart, extra practice. Why you teach it, a little example for a language arts binder page. What you teach. This is like for you, the teacher, and here's what you're saying and thinking about it. It's scripted out for you. These yellow boxes make it really easy for you to quickly draw your eyes to that if you're in the middle of a lesson. We have examples of the rules that we're teaching and dictating words for your child to make and write. So we have that writing component pulled right in, where we're automatically starting to work on not just building the words with tiles or reading the words, but physically writing it, which is a hard skill to do. And so because it's hard, that helps us move those sounds into our long-term memory better. Okay, working on a spelling rule here. We have word lists, workbook pages, review, caution words, switch a vowel game, your LA binder pages here and here. At the end of level 1, there is an appendix of educator resources. Do not forget to look at this because there's a lot of great stuff back in here. It's about making a letter book from your letter sheets, extra practice ideas, the words and phrasing for forming letters, letter formation, some information about the SWAT game and traffic light editing, what you need, quick reference sheets, a lot going on here. Let's look at the second book really quick. Okay, level 2, again, we're starting out that same way where we have the, explaining what level 2 is all about with their video library and how to use the curriculum. We jump right in with Unit 17 with a review and adding in the question mark. Learning rules like every word has to have at least 1 vowel. Let's jump in a little bit here. All right, sound a letter practice, lowercase c and capital C. So again, we have our chart, what you need, why you teach it, forming the letter C, practicing the sounds. There's a video to do this. Your workbook pages are built in. Sound thieves, talking about k and the different letters that can say the k sound. We talk about the cat kite rule, which is great. I don't see this in all of the curricula. I know Logic of English does not have that. I'm not sure if All About Reading does. And then we are sorting words based off of the way they're spelled so that children can then develop and come to the conclusion about how we spell cat and kite. We are building words with the letter tiles. We are using missing sounds. This is their phoneme grapheme mapping is built in. Silly bowl game, doing your phonemic awareness is built in. Teaching literary devices like puns. We have our intentional copywork here. A pun is fun with words, right? So this is really nice that they have that. I have not seen the literary devices taught in any other foundational skills program. I know Brave Writer Dart starts to do that, but this is the only like teaching reading program that I've seen that does that. Again, we have our copywork, which is really nice. It's intentional copywork. It's not just copying for copying's sake or for handwriting. It's we are learning through copying, because we are finding the capitals, we are marking our suffixes, we are noticing all these different parts of words and sentences. Original writing is built in. Let's look towards the end here of level 2. Okay, sound to letter practice. Again, level 2 does go up through our digraphs. I should have showed you the scope and sequence here. Okay, so we get through digraphs with level 2 and some blends and your floss rule. Let's look at Unit 29. Again, we have our checklist telling us what to teach each day, what you need, why you teach it, review 2 letters can make 1 sound, and now we're going to teach about the H team CH. So talking about digraphs and working with our interactive chart with little sticky notes. Sound siblings, push and puff. Again, making a sound sibling chart here. I like that this is really kid-friendly language, but it's simple and not overly kid-friendly. Sound blending. Rules about final J, making a page for that, and that we don't have final J. Copywork, your readers, review, original writing, you get the idea. Extra practice. All right, so this is Pinwheels. Who is Pinwheels for? I love Pinwheels, if you can't tell. Pinwheels is for any student. If you have a student who is getting things with reading fairly quickly and they can handle multiple letters a week or pretty close together, then Pinwheels might not be the best fit because you would have to probably adjust your pacing for your child. They might feel bored or feel like it's moving too slowly or that it's too easy because you're not really pulling in more books past this until almost year 2. That said, you can move through it quickly if you want to. I really like, and I notice that a lot of people will move forward in phonics aspect and slow down or come back and do review for spelling or writing, because again, this is built-in word study and spelling and writing. If you have a child who is showing signs of dyslexia or is a struggling reader for whatever reason, this is the program that I recommend because it has all of the practice materials that you would need to have ample practice. We don't see that in Logic of English or All About Reading. They don't have enough materials for you to really, really slow it down and have enough things to kind of pull from. You would be needing to pull from other things for different aspects of it, right? And so this has all of that there for you. And personally, I like that because I'd rather have more here and then I don't have to go and find it and think it and make it than I need. Okay, so student workbook. This is their level 1 workbook. And you will notice that it's like interactive. So we're using this while we're teaching. So we're talking about how to form the letter. We are practicing it, our handwriting and saying our sounds, and there's some little drawing. You don't have to do this necessarily in order. Sometimes I'll split this up where we do part of this during our reading lesson, and then I assign like this page during, independent practice time. we have this blending part right here built in. So this is a page that we're working with and we're not actually, working on. So it's g, ge, ga, g, ga. So practicing that blending this way, we can do it together, and then they can do it independently over here. Blending it with the new letter added on the back, with it added on the front. Read and copy. So again, g, ig, we're matching the phonogram to the line, the phoneme to the grapheme. We have our missing sounds over here, and starts off with just the beginning, then just the middle, then just the end. If you have a kid who's moving through this quickly, you can just skip all those and go straight to your missing sounds for the whole page. They also have find the consonant type work in here, our copy work, moving the tiles into here, and then writing it. Let's see what else is in here. Missing sounds. Again, a lot of this is pretty consistent, so the child is not having to learn a new activity when they're learning a new sound. They can just focus on the new sound. They already know the activity. And you don't have to learn a new activity either. The copy work, letter practice. Okay, today we were working on suffix S. So again, we're using their word study where we were reading the word, and we started off with I read it. I did an example, and then we did it together, and then she did it on her own, where we're reading the word, we're marking the base word, double underline, we're boxing a suffix. That's part of their system that you then apply to your other copy work. Okay, so this is their level 1 workbook. You can see by the end of level 1, we're still using a lot of the same skills, but we are reading and spelling a lot of CVC words. Level 2 student workbook is similar. Sorry for the glare. Okay, practicing that C versus K in a variety of ways. Our missing sounds and the box. Letter formation. I like that they have D and B split far apart because they are confusing. So if you've really mastered B, we're not then doing D like 2 days later. Reading and copying. Again, our copy work. Get to the end here. It's a lot of the same types of activities, just new content. Okay. So those are those. And so we already talked about their appendix. That's just your cardstock type things. And then your reading kit is all the things that you use for reading. So they're split up by unit. We have your real words. You have nonsense words for some units. You have your sentences that you can cut up and use for different games. You can make silly books that you can just have sentences to practice. You have additional copy work. You don't have to do this. If you need more practice, it's there for you. Okay. And your readers. Some of these are readers and some of them are tell a story. So we kind of have two different aspects to that. So that is Pinwheels. Okay, so that wraps up my tour of foundational reading skills programs. I am recording this little bit several months after I filmed the first bit because we moved and so things are different. I would like to note that initially I had been planning on doing a review, on Pathways to Readings program. They had sent that to me to review. However, they requested the materials back, and so I did not think it would be appropriate to include them in this review. So although they were at the beginning, they are not actually in the review at all at this point. So if you have any questions, you can come find me on Instagram and I am happy to answer them. I also have a bunch of videos talking about the importance of foundational reading programs there. And I will be diving into a couple of other resources soon, Recipe for Reading and UFly's program that are also nice beginning reading programs. All right, thanks folks.